Wrapping up the AFC North, our 7th of 8 divisions. It's team number 28 of 32, or our 2023 NFL team previews here on bet.nola.com, powered by the Dattitude Podcast. I am now your friend, Jim Derry. I mean, we've been going through these things for over a month now, so we might as well call each other friends, although some of the comments that I read on some of these previews in the past, I don't mean to offend your team if I didn't pick them to win the whole thing, by God. Today, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and spoiler alert, I'm not going to pick them to win the whole thing. However, there may be some positive news. Let's get to that positive news. You know, most of the time with these previews, we just get right into it. We get right into their season. But I want to make a reference of something here. When you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and think about it, I told you the other day, if you've been watching these previews, I celebrated my birthday the other day. My 55th, as a matter of fact. And the reason why I bring that up, because Mike Tomlin, just think about these Pittsburgh Steelers and the continuity they've had at head coach. Since I was 1 year old back in 1969, they've had three, count them, I can even count to three. 1, 2, 3 coaches, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin entered his 17th season in the NFL, and only Bill Belichick is ahead of him. I think he's at 22 or 23. Kenny Pickett brought over, drafted the hometown guy from Pittsburgh last year, started 13 games, but threw just 7 touchdowns against 9 interceptions. That has got to change in a big way. He has got to take the next step in his development, and he certainly has the weapons to do so. He's got Deontay Johnson, who is a dynamic receiver, has been targeted over 250 times in 2 seasons. In fact, I think it's closer to 300 than it is to 250. He also has 2,000 receiving yards in that period of time. And then one of my favorite receivers in the entire NFL. He's only in his 2nd season along with Pickett. I think George Pickens is going to be the next, you want to call him Odell Beckham Jr., fine. You want to call him the next DeAndre Hopkins, whatever you want to call him. He's going to be George Pickens is what he's going to be. And he sure is fun to watch because he makes catches that other guys just can't make. And he's in this league to stay. These 2 guys at the top of this wide receiving core for the Pittsburgh Steelers is incredible enough. But you know what? That's not even the whole story. They bring over Allen Robinson. I mean, you're adding Allen Robinson to this group of receivers? So that's what I'm saying. You know, there's no excuse really for Kenny Pickett not to be any good. And we haven't even mentioned his tight ends. Number 1, Pat Freiermuth, who's in his 2nd season as well. 3rd season, excuse me. This guy, I mean, he's 22 years old, 123 catches for 1,200 yards already. And I think this year, just watching what I've seen a little bit in the preseason and in practice, Pat Freiermuth, if you're in your fantasy league, you want to talk about an underrated tight end that you could grab a little bit later than some of these other big names, he's the one, Pat Freiermuth. Got Darnell Washington in the draft from Georgia, big old guy. They didn't even need Darnell Washington. But like I was saying the Saints should have done, the Steelers did it. They took him in the 3rd round. Big addition. And I mean big in lots of ways, addition for this team. So, look, the Steelers are set on offense because I haven't even got to Najee Harris yet. I mean, Najee Harris, all he's done in his first 2 seasons is rush for over 1,000 yards. And he's obviously become one of the main threats on the Steelers team. Will they take some of the pressure off of Najee Harris again like they did last year with Jaylen Warren? Looks like they will because in the preseason, Jaylen Warren has got his share of reps, and I think he's going to be key to this Steelers offense. All right, what about the defense? We see up there on the screen what the rankings are. 23rd total offense, 24th in passing. Look, you know, I don't need to say it again. We've told you who they have. That number has got to improve, and I think it has to. I think it will improve. I mean, I don't see any way it doesn't improve. The 24th passing offense, they could easily get to 14th, 15th. You know, when you think of Steelers, you think defense in general. 13th is not a number you think of as an overall ranking, but it beats the 24th they were the year before that. So, look, Mike Tomlin prides himself on defense. I mean, that's one thing he came into this game with. It's one thing that, again, it's a Steelers staple. They were 5th 2 years ago, dropped to 24th, which is one of the reasons why they struggled to a 9-7-1 record. Remember, they had to keep that streak alive, and they kept it alive again last year. It's been a long time. 2003 is the last time, by the way, the Steelers have had a losing record. I mean, it's just simple. The Steelers take pride in their defense, and they do it with veterans, and they have a nice batch of them here, which is why they went from 24th to 13th. If they can avoid injuries, which they've had trouble with, TJ Watt. I mean, if TJ Watt stays healthy right off the bat, that alone, to me, it's just TJ Watt by himself gets you right in the middle of the pack. I mean, which is where, again, 13th. Can they improve on that? Sure. Can Cam Hayward stay healthy? He's getting up there in age. I think he's 35 years old now. So he's getting towards the end of his career. Can he help stabilize that defensive front? You know, also, and you talk about other veterans, you got Minkah Fitzpatrick in the backfield, along with a free agent signee, Patrick Peterson, who may not start, but certainly is going to see a ton of playing time back there. Patrick Peterson, by the way, out of LSU. But here's why I do think they will be better, and they will be relevant in December, and it's because of their schedule. Let's take a look. It starts out tough enough at home against San Francisco and then on a Monday night against Cleveland. But then the 26th toughest schedule means the 8th easiest schedule, and you can see that clearly. I don't like that early bye week. I've told you that before. At Las Vegas, at Houston. If you're going to go on the road early in the season, and they play 3 of their first 5 games at home before that bye week, at Vegas, at Houston, and then home again for Baltimore. So their toughest games early on are at home. In fact, if you could argue that of their first, 8, 9 games before they go to Cleveland on November 19th, all of their tougher games are at home. I mean, at Vegas, at Houston, at the Rams. They don't even play a single non-divisional opponent that went to the playoffs until New Year's Eve. It's their only one at Seattle on December 31st. So their road schedule really is about as easy as it could possibly be. It may be the easiest road schedule in the NFL. Steelers are getting a break. And then you look at the middle part of the schedule, even though there's 3 games are semi-tough, Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Green Bay, they're 3 games in a row at home against mediocre to maybe slightly above mediocre opponents. And then you go back to it towards the end, Arizona and New England at home. The 2 toughest home games really are the first one and the last one. San Francisco on September 10th and the Cincinnati Bengals on a Saturday afternoon, December 23rd. Might be a little icy there in Pittsburgh on December 23rd. Should be interesting. Point is, this is a navigatable schedule. That's the second time in these previews I've used the word navigatable, and I don't even think that's really a word. But whatever. You know what I mean, right? You know who else knows what I mean? The drum. Because he knows it's his time to roll. Drum roll, please. 10-7, I've waffled back and forth so much on the Steelers' schedule. Vegas is telling me that they're going to win more than 9 games. Why? Because they're juicing it to the under. And if there was, I know this is one of the more popular teams, it seems to be, especially the last week or so. But 9 wins with this schedule in this division, I mean, you know what's crazy? You could have all 4 teams with 10 wins or more in this division. That's why I said yesterday, I think it's the toughest in the NFL, even tougher than the AFC West, because Vegas is in the AFC West, and I think they bring them down. When you talk about the 4 total teams in this division, I think they all could have 10 wins. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. That's where I have Pittsburgh. 10-7, tied for 3rd in the AFC North. Will it be good enough to make the playoffs? Depends on tiebreakers. Kenny Pickett, a lot riding on his shoulders. Really is. He's got the receivers. Got to do it this year. Got to take that next step, because the Steelers really, you want to talk about where they could be? They could be back at the top in 2024. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Time to finish it up next week with the NFC South, including the New Orleans Saints next Friday. Before that, we got Atlanta on Tuesday. Have a great holiday weekend. We'll see you then.